Spain isn't hard, just badly explained. Of course, this isn't an unpopular opinion around here, but everywhere else it definitely is, and that isn't a surprise to me. Spain can be quite overwhelming for people who haven't played them before. There is just so much for you to juggle. From the prep itself, whether that's making sure you don't run out of PP, hoping to get the right decisions, making sure concessions to the left is maxed out, and regaining control of the states you want. And that is just the Republicans' intended prep. As I've found, the best way is to ignore their prep and start as soon as possible. No surprise, HOI4 doesn't tell you about that. The nationalist prep isn't much better. You'll need to get control of Eastern Aragon and Catalonia, but the AI cheats on this. I don't care what Paradox calls it. It can do things that a player cannot, i.e. cheating. But all being said, once you break it down, the prep is just clicking buttons. It's really simple. I've just played it so much I can point out its problems really easily. Most players would never notice them. For the Civil War itself, I don't think it's that bad. There's just some simple things you need to remember. 1. Always keep moving. Especially in the early days of the Civil War, while the front lines are organising, you can take so much land if you take the speed down a little and micro. 2. Remember to do an offensive every 90 days. Unplanned offensive sounds scary with its debuffs, but as long as you do them at the right time in the right places and focus your units, you'll be okay. But most importantly, 3. Do a naval invasion. Holy shit, you guys. You have no idea how often I see someone stuck in Spain, but they refuse to do a naval invasion. It's so useful if you do. It breaks the front line up. It gives you gaps. It gives you opportunities. I've even made an acronym for you to remember, so you do one. DANI. D-A-N-I. Do a naval invasion. Yes, Spain has a learning curve, but so does pretty much everything in HOI4. If you need help, that's what I'm here for. I've made so many videos and guides on them that you should be okay. Next, HOI4 has an irony poisoning problem. Right, I should probably define that, shouldn't I? Irony poisoning is when the line between genuine beliefs and ironic beliefs gets completely blurred via the complete overuse of said irony, and I think this applies to the HOI4 space. There is just so much ironic humour around these days that it's completely lost all meaning. I'm just tired of it all, man. I'm just tired of it all. There's way too much of it. It's a thing that has embedded itself deep into the HOI4 cultural zeitgeist. The self-hating, the self-pity, it's all so easy to find. Sure, life isn't always perfect, and sometimes you will have bad days. You are your own worst critic after all, but a bad day implies that a good day will come, and there are plenty of things you can do to help yourself and those around you. And if that means not playing HOI4 for a while, that's okay. The game will always be here. But that brings me on to the other side of the problem. Schrodinger's douchebag. I know many people will be saying, but it's just a joke. I expect many people don't actually believe the things they are saying, and only do it because it's expected of them as a HOI4 player. On top of that, not everyone gets it's a joke, and some people are saying this stuff genuinely. And sometimes that does make me worried. Now of course, I shouldn't imply that this is a HOI4 specific issue. It's not. But it is a problem that HOI4 suffers from, and I hope that this can hopefully begin to push the needle in another direction. So yes, the HOI4 community does need some positivity. Let people hear it. This doesn't mean you have to be happy and cheery at all times when it comes to HOI4. Like all things, you need balance. Going to either extreme is really unhealthy for everyone. That was the whole point of my old What's the Point series. A path may suck, but we will try to find a silver lining to it. Or it may even be good. Or to summarise all of this very simply, your life is everything. You serve all purpose. Love yourself now. Hopefully that gets through. Okay, on the opposite hand, the German Civil War is boring. This one I have been saying for a very long time, and I still stand by it. The German Civil War starts and ends way too fast. When I played them for the Ultimate Guide, it started on March 10th and finished on July 8th, 1936. For points of comparison, here are some other civil wars. Spain. Fastest start is on July 17th, 22nd, depending on the faction, and fastest end is on August 1st, 1936. And yes, if you've noticed, Germany's can start and finish in that time. Russia. Their monarchist civil war from my memory takes 420 days to start, and from looking at the last time I played them, took until January 1938 to finish. But what gets me is that for almost every other civil war in the game, there is a build-up. You do some focuses, usually get to some sort of a threshold like party popularity, and then you start. But Germany, nada. No work, no build-up, nothing. And there is no way to customize it. You get the exact same spawn every single time, the same amount of units, planes, tanks, and so on. Yes, you can delete your starting units, but you know what I mean. The others have lots of customization. The Soviets can choose their base and what state for control. Spain allows somewhat of the same, but also has the countdown clock in the form of the inevitable civil war. However, the biggest disappointment was that Germany got a rework in GGR, and Paradox decided not to take advantage of that to make it more engaging. And I know, it was fully Paradox's intention to do that, but that doesn't make it automatically okay. Graveyard of Empires was full of Paradox's intention, and see how well that turned out. However, I will bask in the fact that August von Mackensen did get nerfed. It's the small victories, you know. Speaking of HOI4's development, not every country needs a focus tree. There are now 64 focus trees in this game by my Googling count, and assuming every nation has a path for each ideology, which they don't, but humour me, that's 256 paths to play. So, who really does need a focus tree now? The way I see it, a country must have done something significant of note during World War II to qualify, and I wouldn't include any who declared on the Axis purely for diplomatic favour, but otherwise weren't involved. So yes, this would disqualify countries like Turkey, but it would also disqualify minor allied nations, like Cuba. Cuba did think U-176 and was involved in the Caribbean, but that's so obscure that this is probably the first time you've heard of either of those. But for other countries, Luxembourg, no. The perfect time would have been GGR. Albania, no. You would have to give them some stupidly insane buffs to make them survivable. And we must also take into account the countries that stayed neutral. For most of these, I think the generic focus tree is perfect for them. Hell, for countries like New Zealand, the generic focus tree would actually be an improvement for them, over the focus tree they actually got. And considering we're in an era of Paradox redoing older DLCs and majors, I would rather they focus their efforts on nations people actually would enjoy for longer, because, be honest, how often do you guys play Switzerland? So, who does need a tree? Well, if you ask me, there are 3 countries that really do need one, and 2 that, while a stretch, would be okay. The first 3 are Indonesia, the Philippines, and Thailand. The maybe 2 are Croatia and Slovakia, and for them I'd only want a small tree like Vici's anyway. All that being said, however, I will bring up something I've said before. Just because some countries don't need a focus tree, doesn't mean them getting one can't be good. See Portugal and Spain. They are perfect examples of countries that don't really need content, but what they got was high enough quality that it didn't really matter. And that's the thing at the end of the day, as long as it's good, I don't really care. And to complete this trio, HOI4 has really bad feature bloat. HOI4 has had a lot of features added to it since 2016, and not all of them are good. The first one that comes to mind is intelligence agencies, added all the way back in La Resistance during 2020, and apart from collabs or ciphers, no one really uses them, outside of an odd exploit or niche use of course. Even the DLC that added them didn't really know what to do with them. The only unique operations that the La Resistance nation got were the ones that Communist France received, and those used to crash the game. Honestly though, that wasn't that bad. What really pushes HOI4 over the edge is all its designers. The naval designer, ships, sure, they're specific pieces of equipment, whatever, but then we got far too many. Tanks, planes, MIOs. The best sign it went overboard was that Paradox had to add so many presets because people needed them, and they only added importing designs from previous saves to save face after Graveyard of Empires bombed. Having customization is nice, but it just went too far. How are new players meant to understand any of it? It makes HOI4's learning curve even sharper than it already is. Then there are features like the balance of power, featured heavily in By Blood alone, but hasn't really been seen since. If a Japan rework doesn't include it, that would be a massive shame. It's an interesting idea that Paradox hasn't really fully explored. But then there's the things that Paradox has just abandoned. The agitprop, unused since 2021. While I can see an argument for keeping it unique to the Soviets, I do think a mechanic like it can work for other nations, like Germany. There's also embargoes that are practically worthless. You need 45% tension generated by a country to do them. The US cannot embargo Japan on historical. You know, one of the things that set Pearl Harbor in motion? Now we're on to HOI4's newest mechanics, raids and special projects. Personally, I think raids are style over substance. I haven't really used them, and outside of achievements, there's very little reason to. Special projects are alright, but there's something I'm just not particularly interested in. But I do understand them, you know? And that's the thing. Do you think Paradox will add more raids, more special projects, more operations? Maybe, but we already know they're actually doing a faction rework, so they'll advertise that as the new feature in the next DLC. They're as bad as Game Freak in that regard. Add a new feature and immediately drop it afterwards for the next one. Now it's time for Order 66 was the greatest exploits. Oh god, Order 66 was patched so long ago, some of you probably don't even know what it was. So the way this worked was that you got military access from any nation, send in your units on a defensive area order, declare war on whoever you're going after, and you would almost immediately capitulate them, since you were already on their victory points. The specific method would change as Paradox attempted to patch it multiple times, but that's generally how it went. And you know what it was? Fun. Really, really fun. Sometimes you just want to use the screw you, I win button. And that's what Order 66 was. Don't want to deal with Germany's BS today? Sure thing, let's demolish them. America has fully mobilized and building a navy will take too long? Nothing personnel, FDR, you're my puppet now. Italy took a state you needed for 1 king, 2 crowns, and you don't want to burn another few hours for an achievement? Why not? Make them pay. Not often remembered, but Order 66 could and often would fail a lot. While powerful, the exploit was never as guaranteed as people wanted it to be. If there was an extra unit or two in a big victory point, that could be enough to completely derail an attempt and force a restart. You would actually have to think about what units you used and where they needed to be. So, where's the problem? Well, I think it was overexposure. While not the only exploit of its time, Order 66 was the most famous and prevalent exploit of early HOI4. It was everywhere, and like every joke, there's the law of diminishing returns. The more you see it, the less special and more boring it becomes. There were other problems like using it in places it didn't belong, like multiplayer, or just being replaced in the public eye by newer and cooler exploits. And with Paradox more or less patching it a while ago, Order 66 has faded into the history books. However, I will always remember it as the greatest exploit in HOI4 history. I will miss you, old friend. Right, a short one. We let Paradox get away with some really awful business practices. Making money is not inherently a bad thing, but some of the things Paradox have done are absolutely awful. And if they were almost any other company, they would be deservedly blasted for it. Let's break it down. HOI4 currently has £197.97 worth of DLC. That's £105 4 pence for expansions. £21.76 for models like armor and planes. No gameplay changes, mind you, just models. But worst of all, £26.24 for speeches and music. You know, things you can queue up on YouTube and Spotify for free. And shout out to anyone who has to deal with Steam's regional pricing. My heart goes out to you. Let me know how bad it is now. By the way, remember, HOI4 as a game costs $41.99. That's why they made that DLC subscription, to try and lessen the blow from actually buying the rest of the game. Or, conversely, try and tempt you with a little teaser. And I know what Paradox has done is fairly common for them, and the genre that HOI4 is, but come on. £3.99 for some focus icons that should have been a free patch to NSB is just ridiculous. I should also say that locking brand new features behind a paywall was pretty bad. At its absolute worst, the entire autonomy system was locked behind a DLC. This never should have happened. New focus trees, sure, but vital gameplay features, no. None of these, though, are the absolute worst things Paradox has done when it comes to DLCs. Because if you look at HOI4's DLCs on Steam, the oldest major one you can find is 2019's Man the Guns. The game released in 2016. Surely they did DLCs before then. And they did. There was 2016's Together for Victory, which was where the autonomy system came from, 2017's Death or Dishonor, and 2018's Waking the Tiger. But in April 2024, they were all added to the base game. Why? Because Paradox shamelessly double-dipped, and wanted to resell focus trees they'd already done. Oh, and I do know what Paradox's defense to this would be. That you already got your money's worth, you played the DLCs for years, and this will help future development plans. Which is totally bullshit. Paradox is more than capable of fixing old DLCs for free, and building hype for new ones. How do I know this? Because they already did in 2020. Here is Yugoslavia's focus tree. But this is not what it originally looked like. It originally looked like this. But when Battle for the Bosphorus came out, they took the time to overhaul it to what it is now. They also did Romania, but not to the same extent. And did they charge for this change? No! And that shows they are fully capable of doing it again, but deliberately chose not to. Don't forget about the war effort patches either. Fixing old DLCs is literally why they exist. So that's what they should have done. Make new DLCs for new countries, but also do overhauls for old DLCs while they do it. HOI4 has 2 development teams, for goodness sake. They have the resources. And this is where the "we let them get away with it" comes in. Because when Paradox did it, no one cared. I don't get it. If EA did this, we'd still be hearing about it. But not Paradox. They got away with it. And what's stopping them doing it again when GGR gets old? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But times are hopefully changing, as Graveyard of Empires was the kick up the arse that Paradox and the community needed. The outcry against this was so bad it caused Paradox to back down and do multiple apologies and updates to save face. And keep it up. Paradox is not your friend. And anything that gives them bad PR and makes the line go down is a good thing for you. the consumer, as it forces them to do better. And that, as we say, is that. Do you have any opinions of your own? Let me know in the comments below. And so, until next time everybody, I thank you for watching, do hope you've enjoyed it, and until we meet again, from me, Bubbles Zest. Goodbye.